Right back to the mound. Good stab by Mulholland. Runs most of the throw. What? He
ball stuck in his glove.
The ball stuck in his glove, and that's why he ran so far to first he couldn't get it out. And then he attempted to lob it with his glove hand, and the glove went with it. And Brenly caught them both.
You're going to watch
this. This is a classic. This is going to lead this week in baseball. Right back to the mound. Now, it sticks in the webbing, and it's still there. And he runs to first in midair. Look at Brenly catch the mitt.
It is a classic, and it did lead this week in baseball. And now it's leading, crafting the call. Hello and welcome in. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strasser with the Lansing Lugnuts.
And I'm Josh Sushan with the Albuquerque Isotopes. I feel like I got an 80s vibe today, Jesse. I got the powder blue. I got the baseball bunch shirt on. We got some 80s clips. We got some modern clips. And we're going to try to figure out what a play-by-play announcer can do when you see something that you've never seen before.
I think a good start to say, he did what?
Yes, because I think this is what makes baseball so fun, right? Is that over 162 games, you're going to see these bizarre things. You're going to have moments where you just can't help but laugh, but yet you also still, as a professional, want to make sure that you are describing the action accurately for the viewers because they are expecting you to tell them what just happened.
As Yogi Berra once said, expect the unexpected and vice versa. So, what do we have next in our lineup?
Well, let's find out.
On the night. Base hit right field, but they're going to have to hold Jeltz at third. And now the ball gets away from O'Neill. He kicks it to Benzinger.
No, I do not believe this. This is the all-timer, Tommy. The absolute all-timer.
He kicked the ball to Todd Benzinger.
The absolute all-time play I may have ever seen. Paul O'Neill gave up on the ball game. He assumed with a base hit and unable to get the handle that Steve Jeltz was going to score. Steve Jeltz had to hold up because of the line drive past Benzinger.
That's perfect form.
Absolutely perfect form. So that's Paul O'Neill, Cincinnati Reds, 1980s. And I think you're hearing, again, you're talking about like we get into muscle memory or word memory as broadcasters, right? There's a base hit. He gets away and then just, wait, what? He kicked it?
No. No. Just the pure rejection of what you just saw. No.
I'm trying to think of just because your brain goes from, I'm seeing this play, I've described this play before, to, wait a minute, I have not seen this play before. And I feel like the brain needs seconds to process and fire in terms of, wait, he just kicked it. And not only did he kick it, but he kicked it accurately. And it saved a run from scoring because of the way that he kicked it into the infield. And I feel like, Jesse, it's one of those moments where you really kind of have to pause and then just go back from square one and kind of redo the call, because it's almost impossible to do a call like that justice immediately in real time.
So we've got the second call, right? When we're doing play-by-play, you're staying short in the moment, you're staying right on top of it, but you are able to adjust at any point. If O'Neill comes in and the ball goes under his glove, you've got to be ready for it. You can't just suddenly lose your track. You can't lose your words. If that runner rounding third base blows a tire and goes splat, you've got to be ready for that too. So in staying short and staying with everything, he fumbles, he juggles, he kicks, right? You're still on top of it. And then, as you say, it's that second call that matters. So now the ball is back into the infield. Now you take a deep breath, and now you can really have fun with what just transpired.
As you said that, it made me think the power of being able to use few words in your initial description, right? O'Neill charges, he bobbles, he kicks. Seriously, he kicks, right? That when you use these shorter phrases, I think that allows you to be able, the wiggle room to go wherever you need to go next with the description, as opposed to like these long sentences maybe that you've practiced in your head and that you've done over and over again.
Well, as Joe Davis has said, if you're so brilliant in the moment, you're cheating or you're savant. all of us, we need a little bit of a second to process. In baseball, now that I've had a chance to process, I know that when a guy bungles a play, we say that he booted it, right? If a ball eats up a shortstop, you just say he booted it, even though he didn't actually kick it. But in this play, Paul O'Neill boots it.
All right, let's get into some more unique moments in baseball history.
There's the bunt. That could be trouble as Petrie. No, Stevie dives in and beats it. Good effort by Steve Lyons.
That'll be a base hit right there. Good job. I'll tell you one thing, not a bad defensive play either by the Tigers.
Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get the dirt out, and all of a sudden he unbuckled his pants and they fell down.
One of life's
His face is about the same color as the bill of that cap right now.
Geez, I don't think that's really the proper place to do that, but
He forgot where he was. He had a vapor lock. He had a brain cramp.
oh my. Good job, though, by Lyons. I'll tell you, push that ball past the pitcher, make the first baseman field it. That was Cecil right there. Close play, but he beats it.
Okay, Steve Lyons, one of my favorite human beings. I had a chance to work with him a lot when I was in Los Angeles. And it's what he's most known for. Dropped his pants, forgot where he was. You know that he was actually offered money by Playgirl magazine to appear as a result of that play.
That's a good promotional job by them. Somebody in the Playgirl office was like, hey, I've got an idea.
Yeah. Yeah. What else you got on this play, Jesse?
Well, first, his nickname is Psycho. So that is earned. I've got two things. The first, how about that camera switch to capture the moment as it's happening? Because right now we're just watching Dan Petrie. It's this close up on Petrie and his reaction to the play. And you can tell, I think, with the call of the broadcasters that they are watching their monitor, and their monitor shows them the moment as it happens. And they are beside themselves.
I feel like it's a divine intervention moment in TV too, because let's face it, visually the story is safe or out. Petrie's arguing with the umpire. There was a disputed call. You never think someone's going to drop their pants. So the fact that the director happened to cut to Lyons as he did this, and then you see the immediate, oh no, pull the pants back up, is just one of those perfect timing moments for a director that probably works out mostly through luck. But it's also, again, just I think that whether you're on radio or TV, and remember, this is the 80s before every game was on TV. And I think that I think you just need to constantly train your eyes on going back and forth, right? The director and the camera, because the director might be seeing something that you're not seeing, and you might be seeing something that the director is not seeing. And so it can be really tiring when your eyes are constantly, like doing this between, I'm pretending like there's a monitor right here. But I think it's important so that basically, you want to be the eyes and ears of everything that could be happening out on that field.
I mean, you're distracted driving.
Yeah.
Eyes on the road, eyes on right next to you. I think that the reaction by the announcers, if you think about the way that they reacted with the chuckles to start and he forgot where he was, which, yes, it is forgiving. At the same time, it's gently poking fun, saying that his face is the same color as the brim of his helmet. Every last ounce of it, I'd say, was well done.
Yeah, that's Hawk Harrelson. I think that gently poking fun is a really good phrase that you just used, Jesse, because you have to laugh at this. Yeah. Like, how can you not laugh? But you also this is not the time for indignation. What was he thinking? Like, it's not the time, for something like that. It's a moment of just laughter and fun.
Do you know the one touch that I wish they could have given us is the self-aware look at the bunt. Like a little bit of Hey, do you want to watch that bunt single again?
Right.
Sure. It's such a veer into, and now let's show you this perfectly placed drag bunt where they could go, by the way.
One other footnote about that. Again, I was fortunate enough to work with Steve Lyons when I did some stuff with the Dodgers pre and post. And when Manny Ramirez was on the Dodgers, Manny would always look at Steve and say, "Hey, psycho, keep your pants on today."
We could do a whole episode on what Manny did.
Maybe we will.
But instead, let's move on to another move that took everybody by surprise.
When it was a bunt.
His right-handed hitter against reliever Larry Anderson. Fastball tapped at the plate. It'll trickle down the third baseline. The Mariners are going to let it roll. Lenny Randle gets down on his hands and knees and blows on it like a curler, and it goes foul. Randle puts on quite a show, and here comes Jim Fry out, and he's going to protest with home plate umpire Larry McCoy that Randle cannot get down and influence the direction of the baseball. A little full swing trickler by Otis down the third baseline. It looked like it might just stay fair, and Randle coming in make you forget Laurel and Hardy in a hurry, and he comes in. looked like your basic man with a broom, the curler, out on the ice and blows it foul.
I have never seen that before in baseball. If this is allowed, Kenny, that will be part of the arsenal, I'm sure, of the third baseman from now on, especially on AstroTurf. They may give him the base, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do. Because really, Lenny Randle interfered, as we watch it on the instant replay, never touched the ball, but he got down on his hands and knees and literally blew the ball across the foul line.
Now, there's no question about it. You shouldn't be able to influence the direction of the ball in any way in a situation where you can't touch it. It would seemingly be an interference call against the Mariners.
And I think the Kansas City Royals are going to be given the base.
You don't think that'll make This Week in Baseball, do you?
Oh, I think it may lead it up. It may lead it up.
We have another entry for what is going to lead off This Week in Baseball.
Well, it's got to be understood for all of those who weren't there that This Week in Baseball was an institution and that it was front and center on a broadcaster's mind like it was on a fan's mind. I've got a couple of hot takes on this.
Okay.
Hot take number one. He didn't actually affect the ball. That ball was rolling and spinning foul. And Lenny is just being funny. I don't really think that if he hadn't blown it, that ball would have stayed fair. He is one of a couple of guys who've done this. And I do think in the moment, this is funny. This is thinking, ad-libbing a situation so quick. There was someone who did this before Lenny Randle. Their name is escaping me, but Alek Manoah tried to do this in recent years as well. So I understand why the base was given. I personally would have fought against this and would have said, my guy found a loophole. That ball is going foul. Do you really think that his breath is that powerful? I would have liked, I enjoy that the broadcaster, the thought immediately went to curling. I think I would have had more fun with this.
By the way, Lenny Randle told reporters after the game that he did not blow on the baseball, that he was talking to the baseball, that he was saying, go foul, baseball, go foul, that he never really blew on it. Kevin Seitzer is another who tried to do this and was unsuccessful at doing this. Indeed, Amos Otis was awarded first base on this play, so it was ruled a fair ball. And Lenny Randle, in case people never saw it, MLB Network did a documentary on Lenny Randle, one of the most interesting characters in all of baseball, which I highly recommend. And this is also something, though, Jesse, that back when artificial turf was a mainstay in the powder blue 80s era of This Week in Baseball, this type of thing might happen more often. There's so few turf fields now that this is something that that's not going to happen now on grass and dirt.
No. For as much as people say baseball has stood the test of time and here's what the game is, no, the game changes. The game changes drastically.
Yeah. So overall, though, I think the announcers did an extremely good job on this. You know, even just using the phrase trickler, like a curler, immediately identifying that the Royals are going to protest this, that this might get overturned. I think that this is a unique moment that if it happens now, you can say, okay, I have seen that before. But at the time, most people probably had never seen this before. I think they did a really good job of explaining this. Replays were excellent. Close-up of Lenny Randle trying to blow it foul.
I agree. And I like when baseball takes a turn to comedy. We have had a player on my team the last couple of years who has ways of injecting comedy into a ball game, whether he's trying to shove a guy off of second base or trying to pull off a hidden ball trick, but intentionally taking way too long and being too obvious with it to crack up the umpire. It's just fun to have someone keeping everybody on their toes over the course of a long season.
All right. Well, speaking of that, when you're in the dugout, even if you're not the prankster, sometimes you need to make sure that you are really paying attention to what's happening in the batter's box.
Dave Hulse now stands in. Hulse 2 for 3 tonight. A pair of singles. He gets fisted and fights it off toward the Angel dugout. It's strike one. Got folks moving. All right. What ahead? Hit the guy in the real dark blue suit there. That's no, that's no good. Not that one. What did it hit? You hit the corner something?
I think he's decided he's headed for the night.
Yeah, he's gone.
See you guys.
Again, slapped that way. Same spot. Uh-oh.
You're in your holster now, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, don't do anything wrong after the game.
You never know, it might be a little target shooting down there next time. Going to hit that thing off before it gets in the corner.
Gray with the 0-2 pitch. Same spot almost. That's it.
Oh, mercy. How about one more? We'll get 2 or 3 to go just a little harder. Good time to throw a grenade in there. Got them all bunched up.
That's right. Got him in a cubby. Still 0-2.
Oh, he threw it harder and he just got it in his hand. Too much. I'll tell you what, if you could do that in territory, you could hit 400.
3/4 empty Angel dugout. There's one between the white lines. Luis Arcina throws out David Hulse.
I think it's safe.
Oh, goodness.
The most entertaining 6-3 in baseball history, Jesse.
The lingering camera after the very first foul set all of this up, that the camera stayed in the dugout and caught the first person to leave that post. And that starts to set things in motion. And it's beautiful. The one thing I wish that we could have had was an instant replay of one of the first 3 foul balls. Mm-hmm. But when they finally show the first instant replay of the at-bat, and there you see it going right to the area. And then for the pitch that he grounds to shortstop, Josh, the camera is lingering on the shot above David Hulse with the batter and the dugout. They could have shown that shot for that pitch, and I would have loved it.
Shout out to all the camera operators and directors who make these moments possible, because it's just exquisite. Like, the directing's fantastic about it. I'd love just the back and forth commentary, right? Like, there's certain moments in a baseball game where no matter what it is that you're talking about, you have to stop on a dime and just focus on that play, that moment, even if it's a foul ball. And I think the announcers did this perfectly. And there's even the point when the analyst says, how about one more? And then there is one more.
They put themselves on the field. Specifically, they put themselves into the dugout with all of their reactions. And you felt like you were right there. And then the camera kept going to David Hulse's expression. He's going, I am trapped in a nightmare.
Here's another thing that's interesting when I look back on that now is that in the 1980s, it was very common to not have railings, right? There's railings in dugouts now, which number one, it protects the players. And then number two, it allows them to lean over the railings. And that was not very common back then. There's very few ballparks that did that. There was also a lot more foul territory back then because there was a lot of cookie cutter ballparks that were used for baseball and football, but that's another story. And so the potential of a foul ball going into the dugout was much higher back then than it would be nowadays. And so I find that part interesting. But then also the cutaways to the batter and the look on his face, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing right now?
Yeah, and there was nothing else. It was just David Hulse, dugout. David Hulse, dugout. We're not seeing the pitcher. We're not seeing Hulse's Rangers dugout. We're not seeing any fans and their expressions, which I think today, if this happens, I think they cut to show fans' reactions. And I actually think we don't need that because do you know what we get from the fans? We get a laugh track. Mm-hmm. This turns into a sitcom. And when the third one goes over there and you hear the fans' reaction and the fourth one and you hear the fans, that's all that I need. I don't need you to show me the one fan who's laughing or looking around. It's beautiful that here's David and here's the Angels going, enough already. One last point from me. I love the line, I think it's safe. Between the white lines, he's out. And as everyone starts to go back, that I think it's safe is beautiful.
Speaking of that, though, before we move on to the next clip, we're up in the press box during the games, but before the season, there might be some inter-squad games that take place where I'm down in the dugout. And I know that there's been times, left-handed batters up, I'm in the third base dugout, and I want to duck below that railing, right? I'm starting to think like, oh my goodness, am I going to be able to react to get out of the way of this foul ball? And I'm always blown away at how nonchalant players are about, yeah, I'll get out of the way of this. Whereas me, I'm petrified that I'm going to get hit by the ball because of, look, when it goes at that angle, it is a screamer off the bat. And it makes me appreciate that we have railings now so that there is more level of protection for players, for coaches, for trainers, for police that were in the dugout. Everyone's getting out of the way of this.
Oh, man, the fact that the ball was going right over to the officer, that was something. About that note, I mean, I think about Glenn Davis. There have been some bad injuries in dugouts.
Matt Keogh, another one.
Yeah. Although the baseball line, have you ever heard the line, ugly seeker?
Oh.
Any ball into the dugout seeks out the ugliest guy in the dugout.
All right. Speaking of foul balls, let's get to one of the most legendary at-bats in baseball history that involved a lot of foul balls.
Alex Cora, a couple of fly balls. So when you don't have power, a couple of fly balls is pretty much wasted opportunities. Fly to center, fly to right. See if they have it bunting. Ball one. That's a strike. 1-1. Now 2-1. Nope. No play. Foul ball. Ground foul. Fouled away. There it is. Pulled it foul. And driven foul. That's amazing, isn't it? Here comes the 15th pitch in this at-bat. Wow. The crowd now is really into the pitches. And still 2-2. Nobody out. Big foul. Wow. It's a 16 pitch at bat, and the crowd loves it. Look at Dave Roberts. They're all enjoying this battle. Matt Clement and Alex Cora. Coming into the game, Cora was hitting .400 against Clement. He is 0 for 2 tonight. So the game within the game here. Well, here's the 16th pitch. What an at-bat. "17 pitches. It is the rare time that you can be in the ballpark and everyone is counting the pitches, and it's going to be a 17 pitch at bat now at least. Well, I don't know. They don't keep records of pitches and at bats, but it's kind of special. This will be the 17th pitch. Grabowski's exhausted. And Mike Ireland reminds me, how about if Grabowski had been running on every pitch? Time. Oh, the crowd is loving it. You ever see so much excitement and nothing has happened? That's what's really funny about it. All right, here's the 17th pitch. And it's foul. Foul ball by a hair. So that means it will be at least an 18 pitch at bat. Clement has made more pitches to Alex Cora right now than he has made in any inning but the third. The 18th pitch. High fly ball into right field. Back goes Sosa. Way back to the gate. It's gone. Home run, Alex Cora on the 18th pitch. And the Dodgers lead 4-0. Oh, what a moment. .923 on the scoreboard if you want to write it down for history. What an at-bat. And Dusty Baker says, we're going to stop the fight. And Dusty's going to bring in a fresh horse. That's one of the finest at-bats I've ever seen. And then to top it off with a home run, that is really shocking. Yeah, take your bow, Alex. You deserve it, and then some. Oh, by the way, that also means the Dodgers have homered in 6 straight, but it took a whale of a job to do it. Stay where you are, 4-0 Dodgers. Look at the ball club.
Oh, my goodness. What a just absolutely magnificent at bat. And Vin Scully at his finest, documenting pitch and just setting the perfect tone, Jesse.
High fly ball into right field. What strikes me about that is you can really feel Vin's support staff around him because they are working hard. They're coming up with insights. Vin, think about what if that runner was moving? Oh, by the way, we are trying to track down records. We are looking at this. There's so much that they are doing behind the scenes to help supplement his call, and he is finding the space to fit things in while still allowing each pitch that necessary breathing room.
I don't know about you, Jesse, but when I call a game, I keep track of every pitch, right? I put an X for a strike. I put an O for a ball. I put an F for a foul ball in my scorebook so that I can keep track. Yes, we have game days. Sometimes it goes down. Sometimes it's behind. I want to be able to keep track. And I have a personal just rule of thumb in general is that once it gets to a 3-2 count, if I was talking about something else for whatever reason, I need to stop that train of thought and just completely lock in on the rest of this at bat. And I feel like once you get to the 10th pitch of an at bat, and again, I want to keep track. I want to be able to describe it. Once you get to the 10th, I just want to totally lock in and feel the energy of the crowd as they recognize what is going on and really build up the drama. I also want to be able to look at my scorebook so I can go back and I can say, for example, a ball, a strike, it was 1-2, then a ball, then 4 fouls, then ball 2, then 4, like whatever the case might be, so that I can properly set it up. I love the way that Vin kind of went back and said, Matt Clement and Alex Cora, right? It's like a resetting of the storyline. At one point, he just said, wow. I love the way that Vin just said, time is called, right? And then I love how at the end, Vin was so good at this. He would say, oh, by the way, and he would chime in another little detail as well. I think it's just a magnificent call of just understanding the moment.
It's such an interesting sort of, and Vin calls it the game within the game. As the crowd is rising to cheer for the 17th pitch, what I'm thinking is, do they want something to happen or do they want another foul ball? With the David Hulse, I think we're all rooting for the next ball to also be hit into the dugout and just hoping he hits 10 straight, 20 straight. When I was a kid going to see an extra inning game, there was a part of me that wanted the game to last all night, to go all Iowa Baseball Confederacy on it. And so when there's another foul that's hit, I kind of want that to be celebrated. Foul ball, let's keep on going. But it turns surreal, and I love Vin's chuckle that, here, look at this. This is wild. What's going to happen next?
I reference this call a lot once you get around like the 12th, 13th pitch of an at-bat. I'll usually like to add it to my broadcast, the famous Alex Cora 18-pitch at-bat off Matt Clement when he homers. We had one here in Albuquerque. I want to say that it was 15, maybe 16 pitches. Guy by the name of Sam Hilliard, one of my all-time favorite isotopes. And it was either I think it was his last game before getting called up to the majors or maybe 2 days before. And he just battled, and then he hit a home run to straightaway center field. Again, it was the 15th or 16th pitch of the at-bat. And it's one of my all-time favorite home runs that I've ever called, just because of the drama and the build-up and about it. And I know I've talked to Sam about it numerous times over the years. And Sam has said something along the lines of, there were so many pitches that I got in that at-bat that I missed. And at a certain point, I just determined he is not going to get me out. There is no way that he is going to get me out. I love how it just builds, and how maybe the catcher goes out to the mound, or, maybe there's a look on the pitcher's face like, just hit it somewhere, or can I invent a new pitch here in order to finally end this at bat?
And that's where I think that the broadcaster can go micro, especially on the radio. Describe the pitcher, describe the batter, describe their mannerisms and what they're doing. And in this case, you can talk about how the bullpen is active and will the pitcher survive this battle? And as it turned out, this knocked him out. Vin has the rare mixing of metaphors here, because we have to stop the fight for Matt Clement, but we need a fresh horse brought into the game. It's the old favorite, horse fighting. It's just a grand moment in a baseball game that stops you dead and brings everyone's attention on it. And I love that feeling of the ballpark is transfixed on a normal at-bat in the middle of the game that is not probably going to affect the score in the long run. You don't know, but you have been stuck in the twilight zone.
So the editing for this is really good. This was like a 5-minute clip. The actual at-bat, I want to say, took in the neighborhood of like 10 to 11 minutes. And I think there becomes time in these lengthy at-bats, Jesse, when the umpire needs more baseballs, right? So he's asking for more baseballs. And I think those are the moments to really kind of set back, let it breathe a little bit more, but also these are the times that you can really reset things, and you can really, maybe you glance down at the dugout and you say, every player in the dugout is leaning over the railing, and just get into like these micro moments of how suddenly one at bat out of 100 in a game becomes this incredibly tense moment.
I believe the record, since we have started chronicling pitches in an at bat, I believe it's 21 with Brandon Belt. It's wild.
It's wild.
21 pitches.
Right.
Josh, what do we have next?
Well, let's Speaking of home runs, let's have another memorable home run because of what preceded it.
Next pitch. Brenly off his glove. Horner's going to reach. That should be an error. Toward third. Bobbles coming home. Bad throw. A run scored. And here comes Griffey. He'll score. And Hubbard into second. Virgil at third. He might have had a double play going around second. The third. Bobble. Brenly is having an awful Sunday afternoon. The fans here, there might be 10 or 12,000.
Now the payoff. Oh, it's gone. Bob Brenly is going to win the ball game. How do you like that? Boy, you talk about a schizophrenic day. Bob Brenly made 4 errors in 1 inning. Home run number 14. The Giants win it 7-6.
Talk about a schizophrenic day. That's John Sterling when he was a Braves announcer with the final call there. The game was on TBS. A legendary moment. 4 errors in 1 inning by Bob Brenly, normally a catcher, occasionally at first base, as we saw earlier in this episode. And he was forced to play third base that day. And what a day that he'll never forget.
Yeah, let me give you a little bit more of the backstory. So Chris Brown, the starting third baseman, comes down with something, quote unquote. And so Bob needs to find a third baseman's glove. He doesn't have one. He borrows from Brad Wellman, the utility infielder. And he said, after the 4th error, at that point, if I could have, I would have crawled under third base. Brenly, after the game, said, I should get comeback player of the year for just 1 game. I went from the outhouse to the penthouse in 1 afternoon. And he said about his wife, she was the one who would have to ride home with me. It's a long drive back to Foster City if you go 0 for 5 and make 4 errors. I mean, goodness, Josh. One of the wildest, weirdest games for a player, 4 errors to seemingly bury his squad and then go, no, guess what, guys? I got you.
I remember this growing up in the Bay Area. I remember this well. It was that time in my life when I really started to pay attention to baseball games every day and read the newspaper the next day and watch the highlights on local news and all of that. And I actually remembered thinking that this was the time when I thought, okay, Bob Brenly, when his career is over, is going to be some type of commentator, right? Because he was just the go-to quote for reporters all the time. It seemed like he was always getting interviewed. He always had something funny to say. And so for him to use that line, I should get comeback player of the year just for this game, was like, okay, we know what he's doing when his career is over.
Let me ask you, how often during games are you thinking to yourself, this would make for drama, this would make for the storyline? As Bob is stepping up there, are you thinking, boy, poetically, this would be perfect for him to win this, for Bob to do something great? And then you're trying to sculpt what that would be. Would you say, to err is human, but to triumph is Brenly? Whatever it might be, this is where you as the broadcaster are going, how can I put this? How can I script what in the world I'm watching today?
The word that always comes to mind is just redeem, right? The player's looking to redeem himself. I think that I need to think of other ways to say that so that I don't always use the word redeem or redemption, because you're right. There's a lot of different ways that you can set the tone for something like this. I loved how John Sterling said, what a schizophrenic day that Brenly had. I thought that was just a really appropriate word to use in that moment. And yeah, because I think that, we should be constantly thinking about storylines, but also what's the storyline for this individual, right? No matter who the batter is, no matter who the pitcher is, there's certain moments of the game. What is the storyline here that is going on? I think that anytime you can put yourself into the shoes of one of the players on the field, I think it's really good. It humanizes the player. It makes you feel more empathy for the player. It makes you just really try to get inside their head of what they must be feeling, experiencing, wanting to do, desperately trying to do, especially when things are not going well on the field.
If you have kept that close observation on him, like you were observing Alex Cora and Matt Clement, and you remember what Brenly's body language was like during the errors, and now you can describe his body language now that he has come through, I think that makes for a fascinating parallel.
I mean, even one of the things that I noticed, Jesse, is that if a player has struck out, say 3 times in the game, how often he's going to swing at the first pitch in his next at bat. And I'll even say that on the air. Maybe I'll even preview it, and I'll say like, okay, here's Goldberg Strassler, right? He's 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Let's see if he swings at the first pitch. Here comes the pitch, right? And you go, oh, how about that? He was still patient. And if he takes that pitch, then I might say something like, it's a good indication that he's not trying too hard, right? That he still is kind of within the moment. And if he swings at a pitch out of the strike zone, then that is an indication to me and the audience that he is really struggling mentally right now, that he is so worried about another strikeout. He swung at a pitch nowhere close to the strike zone.
Is he pressing or is he going to be impressing?
Okay, let's move on to another play that I'm sure a lot of our audience has seen before, but at the time, I don't think any of us had ever seen before.
Baez hits it on the ground to third. Gonzalez. This is so good. Oh my goodness. Wow, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. They stole a run. You have got to be kidding me. Javi Baez. Keep going. Go. Go. You're invisible. El Mago indeed. That is unbelievable. That is incredible. Wow. He is the gingerbread man. What is Will Craig thinking about here? Just take the ball to first base. Backpedal to first base. That was just incredible. I don't know that I've ever seen a first base coach wave a guy down the first base line. Who hadn't gotten there yet. Oh my! The Calliope crashed to the ground. Just a comedy of errors on the part of the Pirates here. Just great heads-up baseball, and Baez not quitting on the play.
It goes fielder's choice, RBI, error catcher on the advance.
Baez bounces one to third, picked by Gonzalez. The long toss, it pulls the man off the bag, and Baez trying to stay in a rundown long enough. And now sliding in the plate is safe. I don't believe this. The Cubs just got a run on an amazing play by Javier Baez. Baez is going to go to second base now as the throw gets away. He slides at second. He's safe. The ball bounces away again. The Cubs have scored an unbelievable run on a play by Baez. He struck out. He ran to first. The ball was in the dirt. They had to either tag him or tag the bag. The first baseman, Craig, just started chasing Baez back toward the plate. Meanwhile, the runner from second, Wilson Contreras, rounded third and headed for the plate, and he scores. I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's just a routine out. It's a ground ball to third, and Javi stops short of the bag because the throw takes Craig up the line. All Craig has to do is turn around and just walk over to first base and touch the bag. Instead, he keeps thinking, I'm going to tag him, and literally almost walks him all the way to home plate. And then it just gets ugly from there because the flip to the catcher, Perez behind the plate, Contreras dives in safe. Now Baez sprints to first, and they start throwing the ball all over the place. This is one of the craziest Little League type plays you'll ever see in Major League Baseball.
And Jesse, because it's such a crazy Little League play, neither one of the calls was actually all that good. There's a lot of details that got missed, that got forgotten because, again, this is something that you just don't see, and the brain's not really firing the way that it needs to because there's just all kinds of mistakes being made here.
So there's a couple of good aspects to it. But yes, I did want to get into this with you. I think that both Boog Shambi, play-by-play on TV, and Pat Hughes, play-by-play on the radio, they shut it down, and they didn't keep the wide lens. Both of them are completely taken by a surprise that there is a runner who's going to try to score, and then both of them are behind everything else that is going on with the play.
There's just a whole lot of, oh my goodness, I can't believe this type of things. And the other thing is, that's an important detail here. There was 2 outs. There was 2 outs at the time. So even after the runner has scored at home, that run is not going to count if Baez is out at first base.
Yes.
And now that's a really hard thing to remember in the moment. And I think the announcers did a good job of saying all he has to do is go back to first base. But again, Javi was basically at home. He had to run 88 feet to first base in order for the run to count. And that's a detail that got lost. Again, there was 2 outs. They still could have gotten him at first and not given up a run.
Yeah, the foundations of this call are missing. The embellishments are wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of shouting out, Javi, you're invisible.
Yes.
That's beautiful. And then Boog remembering that his nickname is El Mago, the magician. That's a wonderful little detail. But there's so much about this play that I think is baffling. If you're watching it, you don't have any of the context. You don't have any of the wider things that are going on. The Pirates should be excoriated for this.
Yes. And even for Pat Hughes, who I have immense respect for, he forgot what happened in the play. As he's recapping it, he says, Baez struck out. He didn't strike out. There's a ground ball to the third baseman, right? But I think that, and I'm not saying this to again, because I immense respect for Pat Hughes, but I'm saying this because when these plays happen, things can just happen so fast that it's hard to comprehend and immediately remember what's going on. And it just makes it hard. It's a routine ground ball to third to end the inning, and then wackiness ensues.
There's a play that Joe Garagiola tells the story of from back in minor leagues, where a player scored, slid across home plate, the catcher missed the tag, but the player missed home plate, and he heads back to the dugout, he takes a seat. The home plate umpire, in seeing this, does not call safe or out. He just waits and watches. Now, the catcher, realizing that the runner missed home plate, even though he missed the tag, all he's got to do is tag the runner. He rushes over to the dugout. But now he's forgotten which player it was. So he goes right down the dugout bench. He tags you and you and you and you. Turns out the player is sitting on the far end. He's the very last player. And as the catcher is 3 players away, he suddenly gets up and makes a mad dash for the plate. And the catcher pivots about and throws to a teammate covering, and they have a rundown between home plate and the dugout. And that's all I could think about with this home plate and first base rundown on a grounder. You can have some fun with it. But here's where I think the broadcaster's trap comes. You and I, we call baseball. We also call other sports. When you're calling football, a lot of football broadcasters call it standing. You cannot call football laid back. You have to be into it. You have to be ready. With basketball, you have to call with energy. Mm-hmm. With baseball, the vast majority of broadcasters relax. You sit back. I used to call games with a broadcast partner who would take off his shoes while watching the game. Bill King would take off his shirt. And somehow you have to balance that. Relax, have fun, take it easy. It's a baseball game. Don't call it big. We're in the 3rd, 4th, 5th inning, with being ready when things happen, that you are on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that these are the types of plays that are just really instructive, which is the whole point of crafting the call, is being aware of these bizarre things that happen and how can you make yourself ready when something happens that you've never seen. But I do think that this is a play where every time now, look, there's hundreds of thousands of times, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, where you've seen a runner stop, go backwards. It's kind of goofy. He gets tagged out. Maybe he avoids the tag to avoid a double play, and it's a smart play. But when someone is going to first base, we have seen someone go backwards before, and it never leads to anything. But now, every time somebody does try that, all of us immediately think, Javi Baez, the magician.
These are the Cubs broadcasters, so that colors their call. If I'm on the Pirates broadcast, I am shouting, go to first, throw it to first. It changes the way that you are describing everything that is ongoing.
Now I want to hear our buddy Joe Block's call for Pirates on when that play was happening and how he described it, which we might have to do when this episode is over. Okay, so from there, I want to go to another example of something that happens involving a base runner that you don't normally see.
Squeezes on. The bunt is down. The run scores.
And Dibble throws the ball away. Canseco is second. It almost looked like Dibble was throwing the ball at Canseco. And Joe West has thrown Dibble out of the game. Wow. Well, this is certainly something the Reds don't need, but it did appear that Dibble was throwing the ball at Canseco. Joe West apparently thought so and threw him out of the game.
Well, unfortunately for the Reds, Steve, he's out of here. He's pleading his case, but it's too late. Well, here's another look at it. Dibble fields the ball. At first, it looks like he's going to tag him. Joe West thought he was throwing at it.
Now Morris looked at Dibble like he was nuts. And Dibble goes to the dugout. Unbelievable.
First day back.
First day back from the suspension, and this happens. Dibble is gone, and Jack Armstrong comes on from the bullpen. He'll have all the time he needs to warm up.
The best part of that might be how Morris looks at him like he's crazy.
Well, I mean, to insert that detail in that Dibble had been suspended, is back, and here's how he conducts himself.
I think this is a really hard call because, again, something that you don't see very often, if ever. You have your brain is going squeeze. We did an episode on squeeze plays at the plate, and how to call those. So your mind is going from there's a bunt, there's a squeeze, the runner scores, the pitcher now has the ball. And so you're just not expecting him to throw it at the runner. And I think the announcers did a really good job of immediately identifying this was the umpire, not just any umpire, but this is the umpire, Joe West, who has thrown him out. And then once you get to the replay, okay, now it is painfully obvious that this is what Rob Dibble did.
Good use of painfully. Cowboy Joe West,
yes.
Mind you. I like that you have included this because so much of the plays that we have watched, it's the comedy of the diamond. It's the play part of play ball. This is heated competition, and guys can lose their heads. And Rob Dibble was noted for losing his head. He was a member of the Nasty Boys. He had a temper, and it showed itself on the field, and he would throw at guys. So over the course of competition, you are going to see players who lose their minds in the thick of the action, just out of pure frustration. And so how should a broadcaster handle that? And I think it's very important to handle it in a level-headed, state the facts, let's look at the replay sort of way. I think that description of Hal Morris spoke volumes.
Yeah, I think that one of the, and look, we've talked about this before on previous episodes. Look, when you're calling a game, it's on in the clubhouse, right? Like everyone's listening, their parents are listening. You have thousands and thousands of people listening to the major leagues. You have a large audience in the minor leagues, hopefully. And so let's face it, it's in the back of your head. I know that people are listening. It is your job to make sure that you accurately describe what is happening. I don't think that anyone wants to earn the wrath of the clubhouse because you are overly critical, yet you cannot be someone who is trying to defend them and trying to make up a ridiculous excuse. And I think a smart, safe, very effective way is describing what other people are doing on the field, including when Rob Dibble's own teammate looks at him like he must be crazy. And I think that is journalistically sound. And I think that it is the best way to really understand what's happening. His own teammate, the one who is the closest to him, just looked at him like, what?
Now, there is a very famous example of a baseball player losing their mind on the field.
Yes, very much so. And I want to go to this next clip because I think that everyone has already seen the reaction, but I want to do the whole play the whole setup so that we can critique, analyze, learn from what the announcers did and what we would do in a similar situation.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's gone. And now the Royals have the one-run lead. George Brett has just homered, and Billy Martin and the Yankees want the bat. Look at Martin.
Well, what they're talking about, Frank, is that he's got too much pine tar, and you've got to have a certain amount of distance from the trademark of the bat and the pine tar.
And Nettles is leaving the field as if the game is over. No, he's just coming in.
I'm not sure. They might have a legitimate gripe. And the umpires are going to get together. George Brett looking around and wanting to know what's going on. And the umpires are going to get together and talk about this thing.
Well, Billy Martin bounced right out of the dugout.
I've seen it called before, Frank. You are not allowed to have a substance of any kind above the trademark. And I can't tell from here because everybody's huddled around the bat. I cannot tell from here if it's up too far. And now they're feeling it. See, to see if there's some sticky stuff around there.
That's Nick Bremigan with the bat.
This is going to be an interesting call.
Well, Brett isn't sure whether he has a home run yet or not.
Now the umpires are going to walk away and talk about this and go over the rules and examine the bat. See where the pine tar, see the label, the trademark is?
Yep.
See the brown substance there?
It does look like it's
that's pine tar.
It looks like it is.
Now you are not allowed to have that pine tar up that far on the bat. Billy Martin walking around waiting for the, which might be an important decision.
First time in a long time I've seen the umpires huddle this long and have a meeting over it.
Well, we're going to see what's going to happen. They're going
to. Now that is the plate umpire, Tim McClellan, with the bat in his hand. Now they're going to measure it across home plate.
I've never seen this.
I never have either.
I don't know what they're measuring. They might be going to call George Brett out.
Well, the Yankees win it. He's out.
Yes, sir.
Brett is out. Look at this. Brett is out. And
he's steaming mad.
He is out and having to be forcibly restrained from hitting plate umpire Tim McClellan. And the Yankees have won the ball game 4-3. Brett is called out for using an illegal bat or with the illegal substance on the bat.
Like I said, I have seen this before, Frank, and Gaylord Perry just took the bat away from home plate umpire Jim McClellan. He's going to take the bat. They're going to take it so they cannot take it into the American League office or wherever they take it to be examined.
Well, a Yankees security person and one of the umpires quickly are chasing whoever has the bat. Jose Martinez is holding Brett. Bobby, I've never seen this in my life.
Well, I've seen players called out for using an illegal bat, but never so an important hit by a home run and then been called out to put the Royals ahead. George Brett was fighting mad, and whether he has a cause to be mad or not, I don't have any idea. The umpires made a decision.
Bobby, let me say this to you. The fact that they tried to take the bat away and secrete the bat lends credence to the umpire's call, in my estimation.
Okay, a couple of postscripts from this. Again, at the moment, George Brett was declared out. The Yankees won the game. The Royals appealed this game. It was overturned. The Royals had to come back to New York to complete the game from that moment. The Royals ended up winning that game. Where do you want to begin in terms of how the announcers described this, Jesse?
I want to begin with, I want to hear the specific precedent, because the very second that Billy Martin comes out and he starts saying, it's an illegal bet and they're examining it. The second I hear from an announcer, I've seen this before, a player has been called out for this before, I want to hear when and where. I need to hear that specific precedent. I need you to tell me, here's who it was, here's when it was, here's why it was. And if you can tell me that we have a specific player who was called out for using too much pine tar on his bet, I'm ready for the rest of this. I didn't like how vague it all was.
The beginning of the call, it's gone like that. That's not a very good call. This is the Yankees broadcast. But the idea that like immediately identifying it might be too much pine tar, that I've seen this before when they go over to measure it. So I think that they did an outstanding job of immediately identifying what is happening and what they are discussing in terms of the pine tar. And then from that point, again, we've talked about directors and camera operators and where everything lines up. But the shot from the first base dugout, maybe that's the little bit higher one on the first base side, where it's behind the umpire as he points to Brett, says that he's out. Brett loses his mind. The zoom in on Brett, that is just unbelievably fantastic camera work.
I don't think the broadcasters help. They were perplexed as to why the bat was being brought to home plate. Greg Nettles is leaving the field. The game's over. Wait, he's just coming in. It's all still on. I think that they add to the confusion of the moment. If I was watching that game live, I would be very confused. Wait, since when was there a pine tar rule? Whoa, will that reverse the home run? How much? I need so much more specifics than everything that was getting provided there. That felt very much like a couch conversation through rumor. All the while, it is clear that there are specifics. And when you go back into the specifics, that Don Zimmer had this in his back pocket, and he had told Billy Martin, and Martin was ready with that trump card up his sleeve the second that Brett did anything, that they were immediately going to appeal the bat. There's so much goodness in there. And now we've got George Brett racing out of the dugout. We know that he's an explosive personality. We've got an umpire putting him in basically a chokehold, right? Headlocking him. That could have gotten very ugly.
So we've talked about this expression before, that when you call a basketball game, you spend a couple of days getting ready for it. You spend all week getting ready to call a football game, and you spend your entire life getting ready to call a baseball game. Because in 1983, I think there's very few people on the face of the earth outside of the analyst Bobby who had any idea that too much pine tar on a bat too high up might result in you being declared out. Now we do. Now, anytime I see somebody going higher up on their bat with their pine tar, I immediately start to think, is that too much? Remember the George Brett pine tar incident. And so this becomes one of these defining moments when it is understandable if you're not quite sure what is happening. Sometimes you just want to guess, think out loud what might be happening. But now, Jesse, if there is ever any question about a bat and a pine tar, I feel like it's all embedded in our minds. We know George Brett, pine tar, Billy Martin, we know this.
It's such a cool way that it all concluded too, with John Schuerholz making the appeal. Yeah, the bat had too much pine tar on it. Didn't help him hit the home run though. And Lee McPhail agreeing. And then the Yankees turning the resumption of the game into a sham. I think about what we just saw in the NFL playoffs, the NFC Championship game, the Eagles and the Commanders, when suddenly you had Sean Hockley announcing, you know what, if the Commanders keep on going off sides, we're just going to give the Eagles a touchdown right here. Great. Now we've got an arcane rule that has never been used before in the NFL, has been used once to everybody's knowledge in college football. Let's learn more about it. I honestly think that the average sports fan wants you to say, here is the specific rule. Here's the specific circumstance. Like, get us smarter. When things get weird, sports fans lean in. When there's an 18 pitch at bat, when a guy, hits the ball into the dugout 4 straight times, weirdness causes us to lean closer. So get weird with us.
Speaking of the Yankees turning it into a farce, if memory serves me right, Ron Guidry, a pitcher, played in the outfield. Don Mattingly, left-handed thrower, played third base. He actually had done that a couple of times earlier in his career. So Billy Martin wanted to try
Better than Bob Brenly.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, touche. I think that the phrase you just used, lean into it, really applies in these moments of just leaning into the absurdity, the bizarreness, the confusion that exists, and keep the rule book by your side so that you can get the exact ruling just in case.
I mean, we've got the Royals snatching the bat and racing away with it down the tunnel as they're getting chased by security guards. Do you remember when Jason Grimsley was crawling through the ducks trying to rescue a corked bat? Like, now we've got good old baseball espionage. Let's go.
Yes, that was the Albert Bell corked bat, I believe, that he was trying to steal and rescue. Yes. So much fun with this episode, Jesse, in terms of just looking at these bizarre plays and learning from them, both as just baseball fans, but also how we go about calling them as baseball broadcasters.
Let's finish with a little bit more fun of a guy losing his head while also using his head.
All right. For Jesse Goldberg Strassler of the Lansing Lugnuts, I'm Josh Sushan of the Albuquerque Isotopes, and we will leave you with this week's episode with this. We'll talk to you again next time.
High fly ball, right field deep. Canseco back to the track, looking out. It is off his head, it looked like. And over the top. A home run. That looked like it hit Canseco on the top of the head. We'll have to check the replay. It did. It went over the fence. David Hull's laughing out there, so it must hit something funny. It either hit his head or his shoulder. Let's take a look at it. Martinez's 4th home run of the year. And Canseco goes back to the wall. He looks like he's checking the wall. He's checking the ball. Checking the wall and the ball. Reaches up. Hits him right in the head. He goes over the top.
It hit Canseco in the head and bounced over the wall for a homer. Look at this. Boink. And it's out of here.
No wonder David Hulse was laughing when he went over there. Jose, you've hit a lot of home runs. You've done a lot of great things, but that shot will live forever. You will be remembered for that forever.